My name is Alexander Hunter Mark Reed Terry. I don't traditionally go by all three middle names. I like to shorten it and leave it with Reed, because then it's like A-R-T, which spells art. I think I'm clever, but I'm really not. But I think it was just because my mom couldn't really make up her mind, you know? But anyways, I am in the inaugural class of 2012. I'm an advertising design major, and the first of its kind, actually. Also minoring in business with Wanda Chavez. I was born and raised and reared in Texas. I came from a pretty fundamentalist background, and you know, it's just a lot of my family had a lot of influences on me growing up, and that being said, my father held my hand quite a bit throughout life, so I was kind of stuck in this train of thought, or the monkey mind, of just kind of doing what I was told and not really, you know, making decisions for myself. And I followed my sister to college. I went to Texas A&M University studying architecture for about 2 years. Then all of a sudden, I kind of realized in one night how it all, you know, how my life kind of came together. It was one evening, and I was with my sister and her friends, and we were on our way to a concert in Waco, Texas. And we were driving this girl's car, then we got a flat tire, and I didn't know how to fix a flat, so here I am, I would say 18 years old, not knowing how to fix a flat. My father had shown me multiple times, but it kind of went straight through the mind. I didn't even really, you know, think about it, just in one ear, out the other kind of mentality. So there I am feeling emasculated in front of my sister and all of her beautiful friends, and I didn't know how to fix the car, so we called up AAA, and this big lumberjack jumps out of the car, and he's all like, "Hey son, you don't know how to change a tire? Look at these damsels in distress. I gotta come here and be the hero?" So, you know, at that point I just wanted to go and hide. So he fixed the tire. He tried to show me, and my sister the whole time was like, "Alex, look at this. He's showing you how to fix a tire. Remember this for the rest of your life." We went back, got my car, because we didn't feel comfortable driving her car anymore, and we got my car, and so we were traveling to the same concert now, I guess like an hour later, because we were stuck on the highway for a while. And we were driving, went to the concert, great concert, loved it. We stopped at Sonic after the concert had ended for our after concert delight, I guess. And as I was pulling into the parking lot, this old guy was tailing me kind of hard, and I didn't know why, and he was flashing his lights at me, honking at me. And it turns out I got another flat tire. I had parked in the parking lot, and there was a nail, and I got another flat tire same night, within 3 hours of each other after the concert. Ridiculous. I get out of the car, and I was like, "Thank you, sir." And then he's like, "Yeah, my wife saw it. I just thought I'd let you know." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I didn't remember how to fix a tire. So this old man came, and he whipped out his gloves, and he got all his toolkit out, and he came beside me, and he said, "Son, I'm going to teach you something your father should have a long time ago." And he sat there and watched me. He made me do every step of the way, and it wasn't until that particular moment when I had to have someone guiding me and actually trying something all by myself for the very first time, under pressure, with all these girls giggling and kind of pissed at me at this point, to realize, like, I've got to take things into my own hand, because my father had held my hand my entire life. He's done my taxes, he's done everything, and I didn't know how to do anything. And if I went back home, climbed into bed, flipped on the television, and don't ask me why, but it was on MTV. I don't really watch MTV, but it was on MTV, and it had this whole segment of True Life, I guess is the segment they call it, about these kids that regretted going to college, and regretted the majors they chose, regretted why they went to school, regretted just following the status quo and not doing what they wanted to do. And at that moment, I was like, screw this. Signed on my computer, looked up Ringling College, because my art teacher in high school had said something, because I was taking animation, is something I was kind of passionate about. He's like, being kind of the religious guy I am, as you could tell, sporting my cross, I kind of put it in Faith's hand. I was like, okay, you've made me come to this realization through all these trials. Let's see what happens. I'm going to apply. It's going to be really easy. Either I get in or I don't get in. And I thought it'd be, you know, pretty much clear black and white, but instead another curveball, and he's like, okay, you got in, but it wasn't for CA. You got to choose something completely different. I was like, you would. You're funny. And so I decided to come out and check it out. And, you know, here I am today. I fell in love with advertising design because my dad is in the business side of things and my mom's always done greeting cards, so it's kind of like perfect merriment. I got to Ringling College, realized they didn't have a football team, and I was like, man, I need to figure out something that's going to make this campus tick. So what I did is I kind of extrapolated everything out. Harry Potter was kind of like in the news a lot. A lot of people were catching on to it at the time. I think this was back 2008. And I had just found out that my friend's roommate over at Texas A&M had just started a Quidditch team. And I was like, what is this uncanny thing that's going on? And so I started to research a little more, and it actually was something that was started in Vermont in 2005. So it was started by Alex Benepe, and then I started getting contact with him, and then he started reaching out to me, and I kind of morphed into this weird position that I kind of invented for myself called the Southeast Regional Coordinator. And I just kind of was reaching out to a bunch of Florida teams, and I was pretty much in charge of 6 states, I guess. In the summer of 2008, I got an email from Alex saying, you know, we're trying to consolidate the South region. We have a couple different guys kind of doing the same thing you are. Are you interested in doing this full time? I said, man, I'm more of a visionary, you know, long-term goal, wanting to see this thing grow into something like more beautiful than it already was in my mind. And is at that moment he called me back and said, well, I'd like to offer you, you know, to be on the board of directors. I had actually contacted him and said, Alex, we need to make this a business, because this you can't have it only be under the collegiate ruling, because in order to make any financial profit off of it, you kind of have to separate yourself from the academic setting to a more business professional setting. It gives us a lot more leeway, a lot more rights as far as like maneuverability goes. So he took that under consideration, and then like that next summer is when he called me and said, we're starting this as a company, I'd like you to be on the board of directors. He flew me up to New York. We had lunch in Central Park, went to like this castle thing in Central Park. I didn't even know there was a castle, but there is, and I was like, man, this is awesome. It's kind of like mini Hogwarts. And it was just an all-around fun experience. We went up to the roof of the Met for like after-dinner cocktails, and it was just a all-around great experience. And I came home thrilled. I mean, I had to really convince my parents to let me go off and do this, as you can imagine. But my dad saw a lot of, you know, change coming within me. I first transferred to Ringling, and he saw me starting to grow and mold into this bigger man, which was my goal to be anyways. I just wanted to move out of Texas to become that man I'd been seeking to become, and let alone I did it through a boy wizard. And you know, a lot of people on campus call me Harry Potter, just associate it with me. But in actuality, I've kind of turned something that is fantastical, I guess you could say, into more of this like volunteerism, socially changing company, in which, you know, now we have 1,000 teams across the world, and we're branching out into all different countries, and a lot of teams are really catching on board. 2 weeks ago, we kind of had our first ever international, incorporated, crazy like event in New York City, and it's the first time we've ever moved the concept of the World Cup, which is just pretty much like the soccer World Cup, where we have a bunch of teams coming together and just competing for the World Cup. It was the first ever like corporate event that we held, and kind of moved it from a collegiate setting, because for the past 3 years we've always had it in Middlebury, Vermont. And this year we wanted to, since we're becoming a new nonprofit, we wanted to kind of push it more towards, you know, a global setting. So we chose New York City. You know, what better place? And it was right before the New York City world premiere of the movie, of this final 7th part 1 Deathly Hallows video, and they were going to be premiering that the next day. So we were like, okay, perfect timing. And everything was just coming together. All these teams were flying in. I was making all sorts of business arrangements, trying to get corporations on board. And then we had a bunch of merchandising coming in, because we've been making all these partnerships and signing contracts. And everything was just kind of converging to this one weekend, and it went flawlessly. And I'm so proud of our team. You know, we were able to raise over 9,000 books during our book drive for the Book Aid International charity, which happens to be J.K. Rowling's favorite charity, I must add. And we've done a lot of good in the past 4 years, and especially this past year, is just bringing college kids together. And now we've got high school divisions opening up, we've got college teams sprouting up every day, and now we have this interesting thing called the community teams, which I guess is kind of like the verge of being professional Quidditch, where you get paid millions maybe. Just saying, it'd be kind of funny to see. As a nonprofit organization, we have a couple of principles we like to keep in mind as we move forward, and that is, one, we like to promote children's literacy because we created a sport that originally derived from these awesome novels written by this girl named J.K. Rowling, who's probably richer than Oprah, I would say. Just so many kids are involved with her stories and love them to death, and so we want to really promote that because in turn it also promotes Quidditch as a sport. Secondly, we want to fight against children's obesity because these are kids that didn't ordinarily have the opportunity growing up to get out and get involved in like the footballs, the hockeys, field hockey, those types of sports, because like that wasn't their personality type, and maybe their parents weren't the sporting type to force them into that at a young age. So these kids are being able to are able to open up who they are and open up their internal selves to the world, I guess, and show them who they really are, show their true colors through a sport. And then thirdly, we have our whole goal is to empower gender and like empower women and really kind of make this an equal sport. We're actually fighting for this cause in the Title IX organization, which helps like fight for women's rights within sports, and what we are trying to do is get them to insert a clause within their Title IX like constitution, I guess it's called the Title IX 3/4, because in the books that was like their magical gateway into this magical realm, whereas in our sport it's kind of our internal clause of 9 3/4, which promotes having at least 2 of every gender on the field at any specific point. And so like if you're a full girls team, you have to have at least 2 guys. If you're a full guys team, you have to have at least 2 girls on the field. So it really kind of equals out the opportunity for gameplay. And so finally, I guess, is we're trying to leverage our sporting communities to create magical communities within their own communities, if that wasn't confusing. But basically you've got teams that are raised within an educational standing or like an academic standing, and now with community teams they're raised by the community. And so what we would like to do is have those teams give back to those communities that helped them get to that point in their life. And actually one of our top contending teams in the book drive was a community team, the New York Badassilisks, and they raised over 1,000 something books for us in this past book drive. So that being said, we're really kind of trying to push all of our teams to go out and get active, because that's really the message of this entire thing, is you just got to do. You have to get out there and just do. So if there's any type of advice I'd have to any students out there that want to kind of try and make a change for themselves, because during this whole process I have changed myself. And if there's any of you out there that want to try and do something similar, or just kind of stir up the community, I would just say you have to start one foot in front of the other, because in actuality we can talk about all these wonderful things. I could say I'm going to go to the moon tomorrow, but if I don't start building my rocket ship now, I'm not going to get there. So time and time again, everyone's always said don't lose yourself. You've got to maintain who you are. But that doesn't mean you have to like completely let go of yourself. You have to let the environment around you adapt you. Like when I first moved to Ringling College, I realized that, hey, this isn't probably the best place to launch a Division I football team. So I soaked in the community aspect here, and I realized that maybe more of a fantastical type of sport would actually flourish in this type of environment. So you have to let your environment impact you to a certain extent. You have to be able to adapt. Secondly, I'd say do your research. You have to really kind of buckle down and know what you're getting into, because I can tell you time and time again, I've pulled all-nighters for my business classes, and I haven't been able to finish the homework because I've been too busy trying to figure out how to write a contract, how to figure out how to do all these proposals for grants, and how to ask the right question, how to email correctly. And you really have to like go in knowing that you can't just like ask and receive. You have to like really kind of push yourself to the limit and show that you're kind of interesting enough of an offer for someone to really kind of pay attention to you. So keeping those points in mind, you have to do. You really do. you can't just sit around and expect something to come to you. You have to like stand up and fight when it's your time.